earth move for you? Could six otherwise tame-looking words that make up an equally tame phrase ever have much innuendo packed into them? Interestingly, the term originated from a well-known book, For Whom the Bell Tolls, by Ernest Hemingway, although, as is so often the case, the actual words spoken are different to those that we all delight in saying to this day, whenever the opportunity arises, of course. In the book, Hemingway's leading gentleman is in conversation with his good lady love and inquires of her, "But did thee feel the earth move?" I bet you didn't know that, but you do now. But look, there is a link to this film short with those famous words, and it's to do with when the earth really did move for me. As well as, I hasten to add, quite a few others too. It happened whilst I was in Mexico in 2021, enjoying myself as I often did in Acapulco, in this case, the Bay of Acapulco. Mexico is a country I've got to know really well over the last few years or so. After all, I did live in Mexico City for 2 years and grew to love the city and Mexico with its fine cultures and way of life that is simple, with quite literally no rules. It isn't one that immediately comes to the tip of most people's tongue either whenever they're asked which place in the world they would rather and most like to go to and visit. But for all that, I'd heartily recommend they consider Mexico as an option. But be warned, it's not somewhere you can do in a week. Mexico is an enormous country, the 14th largest in the world to be exact. The UK, by way of contrast and comparison, is the 80th. So Mexico's covering an area of approximately 762,000 square miles, in which are packed just over 126 million people. So it's not only a big country, it's also a busy one. But look, what a place to visit. I could write page after page extolling the virtues of Mexico to you all, but will, at this point, mention in passing just the one, which is Acapulco, the city on Mexico's Pacific coast, where, as the song clearly states, you may well find yourself in danger of going loco if you're there for very long. But no wonder, it's sunshine 24/7 in Acapulco, with lots of beautiful beaches to lose yourself in, as well as the opportunity to spend time with some of the most fun-loving people you'll ever meet. But I digress again because I'm here to tell you about when the earth moved for me. Something that most certainly happened back in September 2021, when Mexico was hit by a severe earthquake that had its epicenter close to that part of the Pacific Ocean where I was enjoying myself so much. In fact, a magnitude 7.5, followed by a 5.4 aftershock. I was in my hotel room at the time, and of course, if you're not used to earthquakes, and Norfolk in the UK isn't exactly renowned for them, then it takes you a little few seconds or so to register exactly what is going on, when not only the room, but the building you're in starts to shake from side to side and up and down movement too, giving you the sort of feeling you might have if you were in a box of cornflakes that someone had given a vigorous shake prior to opening it. It was a little bit of like a horror movie, to be honest. Things falling off walls and surfaces, lights flickering on and off, whilst various car and building alarms all kicked off as well, adding to the general cacophony. I was sat on my bed to start with, but then thought that it might have been a better idea for me to get out of the hotel as quickly as possible, as I was quite a few floors up and did think for a few moments that there was a very real danger and chance that the whole hotel might have collapsed. But I sat it out with the understanding that earthquakes only last for around 60 seconds, or there and thereabouts. So I counted, and sure enough, around the 60 seconds later, the magnitude 7.5 quake stopped. I was still alive, and the building's still standing, but for how much longer? It is a well-known fact the impending aftershocks can create more damage. So I made my way to the main staircase, feeling not at all encouraged by the very large cracks that were beginning to appear in all the walls leading down the central staircase from the 6th floor to the ground floor. Was I frightened? Oh, yes, I most certainly, definitely was frightened. I defy anybody not to be in such circumstances. But on top of all that fear, the partial sense of relief I felt when I arrived down at the hotel foyer. With everything still moving around me were the reports and claims that a tsunami had been triggered by the earthquake and was now making its way towards Acapulco Bay, and my hotel included. So, stay put and risk being drowned, or head up the upper floors to escape the waters, but then also run the risk of being inside the building when, as I was sure it would, collapse to the ground. Hobson's choice, quite literally. Luckily, those tsunami reports turned out to be very non-accurate, but even so, it was a big, big earthquake, registering up to 7.5 on the Richter scale. That main quake then being followed by a series of smaller ones, the actual aftershock registering 5.4. But there were many other quakes going on around in a circle too, inland and out at sea, many registering between 3.0 and 4.5 in magnitude. I was able to drive back to Mexico City the next day amidst sights that you might more readily have associated with Hollywood or an actual theatre of war. There was debris everywhere. Roads were closed, buildings were damaged, some so seriously that they didn't as much exist as buildings anymore than a pile of rubble. Plus, scattered throughout the countryside was an assortment of large rocks, some as big as a car, that had obviously been displaced from various hill or mountainsides to make their destructive way downwards towards what was now going to be, at least temporarily, a new resting place. I couldn't take my eyes off the sheer scale of the unfolding scene. It was, of course, terrible to look at. So much destruction and, of course, loss of life. 13 in total. But on the other hand, it was a compulsive viewing, proof of a colossal scale of just how delicate our lives are and how in minutes the actions that originate deep within the Earth's core can change not only people's lives forever, but also that of a city or even a country. Something that goes way, way beyond extraordinary. Yeah, for all that, and as frightening and as humbling experience as it was, it's one I'm glad that I've had rather large earthquake experience. Another story to be told. If only to remind me of just how small and insignificant we all are. For more stories and interviews with famous people, please visit the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show, available on all podcast media platforms, and visit the Lord Russell Baker YouTube channel. And please subscribe to ensure you don't miss any amazing future shows. I look forward to seeing you all on the inside.